Welcome everyone to Textiles and Tea with the Handweavers Guild of America. I'm Kathy Group and I get to be your host today. We want to thank our sponsor. We have one of our Textiles and Tea angels. It is Lisa Schweitzer. Thank you, Lisa. We appreciate you sponsoring this episode of Textiles and Tea. We love our angels that come in and sponsor episodes. So thank you so much, Lisa, and we do appreciate it. As always, we want to remind you to put your questions in the Q&A and not in the chat. We love your chat. Keep that coming. But I can't always see the questions if they're in the Q&A, and I can see them in the Q&A. So please put those in there, because you guys have some great questions in the chat sometimes. And we really want to see those. We want to welcome our guest today, who is Laicee Blackwell. Laicee is a visual artist from Evansville, Indiana, my stomping grounds, and they use a process of weaving, printmaking, sculpture, and photography, as well as mined queer histories. They create work which explores their placement within queerness. They hold a Bachelor of Science in Studio Art with an emphasis in sculpture from the University of Southern Indiana, and a Master's of Fine Arts in Sculpture and Expanded Media from Kent State University. Currently, they're teaching art history course at the University of Evansville. Laicee's work has been shown in exhibitions around the country. They were invited to show their work in Praxis and Practice, digital weaving exhibition in 2023, with the first International Praxis and Practice digital weaving conference at KIT in Cleveland, Ohio, and the Mighty Real Queer Detroit Biennial exhibition in June 2024. They have also an upcoming solo exhibit at the Indianapolis Art Center and the Massillon Museum. Welcome, Laicee.
Hello.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, our first question is always the most important, which is, what is your favorite tea?
My favorite tea was actually, I just recently learned, aka this morning I learned it has been discontinued. But it's the Twinings Cold Infusion Watermelon Mint. But I like any sort of like fruit herbal iced teas, so there are other options. I'm just a little sad.
Yeah, isn't that the way that always is? You find something you really like, and there it goes.
Right.
Not right. Would you share with us how you got started in fiber?
So throughout like my undergrad art making, I did lean toward using yarns and clothing as one of my main sources of materials, but we didn't have a fibers program. It was when I went to Kent that I was in a program that they had a textiles department. So I kind of snuck in there and started learning fibers.
Well, did you do any kind of fiber growing up, or were there like a mom or a grandmother that did fiber, or it just spoke to you when you were in school?
Yeah, my Mimi wasn't like an avid sewer, but she sewed a few things. My great grandma actually made all of her first like grandchildren's baby blankets. I was not a first grandchild from a family, but I was special because I was named after her. So she made me one too. And that was kind of also like being exposed to like Amish quilt making. Um, and then when I got into sort of like building hobbies, I kind of went about a lot of them. So I did like latch hook, cross stitch, learned knitting, crochet. Yeah, so those as well.
University of Southern Indiana, and you got your undergraduate there. You got an MFA from Kent State. And not to disparage any other university, but USI is kind of small, very intimate, So what was that experience like to go from a small university to a larger one that's really focused on fiber? Because like you said, USI didn't have fiber.
Yeah, so USI, oh man, all of our like every year they do the like senior graduating senior exhibition thing, and I'm pretty sure for every single year that the university has existed, all of the seniors will fit on one standard uh like postcard when they send them out. I mean, some classes are bigger than others, but you knew everybody in the department and they all knew you and what you were doing. I was actually the only sculpture emphasis, the person I was the single sculpture student.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
but I feel like the department was really, there was an emphasis on like craftsmanship, and really knowing the foundations of the materials that you were
Mhm.
using. And when I moved and went on to Kent, there was suddenly more options of the of emphases. Like there was glass. USI doesn't have glass. There was fibers and a textiles department and a whole bunch of other things that like you were being exposed to. So I was still in sculpture, but it was so funny because under the sort of like grad student uh directory, they actually had me listed under printmaking because I was up there with the printmaking students so frequently. Um, and then I was also kind of adopted by the Fibers program when I started spending, I'll say most of my time in the Fibers studio than even like my own individual studio. I always was in there on one of the floor looms. I took a jacquard class, so I was on the jacquard loom in the dye lab. So yeah, it was a big jump. And there was also a more of interest in like conceptual ideas
Mm. It
rather.
sounds heavenly. You
Yeah,
just go
I miss
from
it.
this class to that class. I think I'll do a little of this, I'll do a little of that. Now they had you said they had a TC1 there, right?
Yeah, they had two TC1s. So one was a smaller one. It was one module wide, and then they had a bigger one. So that one was 4 modules wide. I think it was like, if I remember off the top of my head, it was like 72 inches wide versus probably about 15. My numbers could be a little off, but somewhere around there.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Um, this first image we're going to look at is photographs that you took, right? And that you cut them up and then you wove them back together.
Yes.
And I love it that we got a picture of you actually working on one. So these are pretty amazing. Can you talk about how this came about?
Yeah, so all of the images are photos that I took at Evansville's West Side Nut Club Fall Festival.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's where all of these images actually, I take that back. I did live in Indy for a year, and that was the first year that I went to the state fair. So some of them are actually also from the state fair. In these two examples, though, these are both from the West Side Nut Club Fall Festival, which for non-Evansville slash Southern Indiana, Kentucky, etc. It's one of the largest street festivals in the United States. It takes up one of the, I would consider it a main street in Evansville. It's like the bar street, and it's a week long in the first week of October. So I would just wander around at different points of the day taking photos of the different rides. And this process actually started because I graduated. I was kind of like in between spaces. My loom was in storage because I didn't have a place to have it set up, but I still wanted to keep making. I needed like to keep going. I was like, okay, so what are the materials? What's the equipment that I have available to me? And I had a camera just hanging out, and so I decided, okay, well, I can follow um, weaving drafts, and I can just weave these photos that I've taken instead. And so that is kind of how this process was born.
Well, it's amazing. It's just, I love the contrast. It's really sharp. Now, the next image I love, this is feet and sandals. I don't know the real name of it. I keep calling it feet and sandals. Is that correct?
This is Carly's Big Day Out. That is the
Not even
title of the
close, but
piece.
it's an amazing piece. And the color contrast and the choices of colors just pop. They're so amazing. Um, so I'm curious, when you choose an image, um, what is it? The meaning of the image? Is it just the appearance of it? Using this as an example, why feet and sandals?
Yeah, so part of the like mining queer histories also includes kind of mining these sort of jokes, um, symbols, etc., uh, that are kind of skewed a little bit toward like identifying other queer individuals. And one of a semi-popular, not stereotype, but is the lesbian that wears socks with sandals, specifically wearing socks with Birkenstocks.
Birkenstocks, yeah.
Yeah, so it was kind of, this was woven on the larger TC1 at Kent State. So this is
Oh,
the
okay.
4 modules wide. And it was kind of when, like this was the first class experience with this weaving making type. So bumping up contrast, how to get the image woven in a way that it was legible while also kind of maintaining this little like a funk to it. And I wanted to keep the colors bright and vibrant. So part of it was also finding random yarns within the fibers department to use. Um, and I let really funky ones call to me. So there's like chenilles in this. There's a really chunky like gold boucle that kind of smelled like an old musty couch. And I loved it so much. And you can actually kind of see a
Multi-sensory work.
line when I ran out of the gold boucle where the socks suddenly become a little bit paler yellow.
Well, I just love this piece. And so it's great to go on to the next piece, which is another version of the same thing, but you approached it from a um, different way of making it. So would you talk about this piece?
Yeah, so this one was woven during a summer intensity program, the Kent Blossom Textiles summer intensive program, which is 2 weeks long, I believe, and you are just working in the studio spaces. There are visiting artists that you're constantly going to see, and they're there working with you. And during this, I wanted to learn how to do warp painting because there had been a visiting artist previously that came, uh, and she presented painted warps. Um, so it was pulling the warp. It was just a kind of natural cotton warp, spreading it out on a dye table and then soaking the yarn in a premix and then painting the dye onto it. And then I kind of bundled them up together, hoped to get them in the right order when I put them on a floor loom. I did have one little stripe that they just needed to be altered, but painted warp, it was woven then just as a plain weave on a large floor loom with a fly shuttle.
It's amazing. It's just amazing because I think painting a warp is such a tricky business anyway. And the fuzziness and the diffusion, it just works beautifully, just beautifully.
Yeah.
But I'm also curious about the symbol or the object, the subject of the work. Do you find that you when you find the subject, you like to do it over and over again to explore with it, look outside the box? And if so, is it the image itself that you're focusing on or the meaning behind it?
I do find myself sometimes like finding something that I really like and then like I get a little like attached to it and I want to find out, sometimes it's like a conversation between me and that image, like, what are you? Why am I so drawn to you? And then it does end up repeating through multiple pieces. Like, this is actually the third piece that has this particular symbol image to it, no matter how distorted. But I do find that in each different way that it is used, it means something else. So, like the Carly Big Day Out, that was the large scale. It was kind of funky. I also use my as to build upon the story of that particular. So it lists all the material I used. Then some
Laicee is breaking up a bit.
but I'm on Carly's big one of the ones that. No, are we hearing? Are we good?
We're losing you some, Laicee. Let's keep
Oh
going, but what we
no.
might want to do later, if this keeps going, what we probably want to ask you to do is turn your camera off, because a lot of times it's the bandwidth and that'll give us all we need. But let's keep
Okay.
going, okay?
Okay. At the end of the material list for Carly's Big Day Out, it says like 80s music on repeat and high fructose corn syrup, because one of the jokes was that I consumed a lot of Mountain Dew during the course of the MFA program. So that's kind of one of those little add-ins. But this piece is actually titled Leslie Goes Someplace Else, which is a reference to the queer bar here in Evansville, Indiana, called like our queer bar is called Someplace Else. And so this one is like red light and a smoke machine going.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah. That's great. So you weave on a loom, you weave strips of photo, and you also do cloth sculpture. And that's what this new next image is going to be. So when you're working with different materials, oh, did we lose Mandy? There's, anyway, so when you're using different materials and you're designing, which comes first to you? Are you thinking about, okay, this is what I want to design, so I'm going to choose this material, or you're like, okay, I want to work with this material and I'm going to make this. So and I want people to look off to the left. If you don't notice, this is a what they call a fly loom, right?
This is a floor loom with a fly shuttle. This
Fly
is what
shuttle, yeah.
the
Which is,
Leslie's
I'm
Big.
so glad we have that picture. That's a great picture of you with the fly shuttle. So talk some about designing and choosing the materials, if you don't mind.
Yeah, a lot of the time the idea, at least for me, the idea comes first, and in my brain I'm like, okay, this is what I want to say, this is the story I want to tell. How do I build something? What do I want to use to add in to that story? So like the flannel pieces were kind of an experiment where I was also thinking about some other imagery that I was working with at the time. I was thinking about U-hauling. So these were going to be sort of original when they started out. They're going to be like moving box shaped, but uh, they became this sort of like amorphous.
Yep, we're losing you again.
Cloth forms that were actually like and okay. Okay. But each side of one of these forms became based on the colors of the flannel that I found at thrift stores, and then they were, each side formed one. So I was kind of also thinking about like the thought of soulmates, which in different mythologies, there's the thought that originally people were these bodies with two heads, I think it was four arms, four legs, but then they were pulled apart, and that is how they come back together. And then the carabiners are also like a reference to those sort of like queer icons, queer imagery, because a lot of lesbians are known to keep their keys on a carabiner while also simultaneously wearing very clashing patterns. So I found this like really awesome fabric warehouse. It was like a hole in the wall. There were fabric rolls from floor to ceiling. And it was just run by this little old man who originally got it for his wife. And we struck up some bargains for some of these really awesome, kind of hideous at times, fabrics that were hidden amongst the mass.
Now, was this in Evansville?
No, this was in Ohio again. I'm pretty sure if I remember right, it was the store was called Carol's Fiber Warehouse or Carol's Fabric Warehouse. It was not in Kent, it was in a surrounding area, but I cannot remember what actual little village it was in.
I was going to make a beeline to go back to Evansville and start buying cloth. Now this next image, I'm talking about, okay, you do these things, now we're going to do this. This is just made up of all kinds of wonderful images and writing and cloth and color. And I love how you've got that pink and that orange in there. It just pops. So tell us about this piece. And I tried to do a detail on the right. I probably should have gotten even closer, but I just want to hear you talk about this.
Yeah, so this was one of my like thesis pieces. I would honestly consider this my thesis piece. But this was a process of like making, tearing apart, remaking, tearing apart, remaking, tearing apart. So it actually started out as a very conventional rectangle where jeans were sewn together on layers to make the shape of a moving blanket, like, you know, those quilted ones that you wrap around like your furniture. And then I screen printed U-hauling across it. But then I wanted to complicate the image instead of having it just be this sort of one-liner. So I seam ripped everything, sewed some sections back together, screen printed other images, like you can see a little box on one, re-seam ripped some, and then on other panels I actually used, I tried using a thickened bleach, but it wasn't quite working well enough for me, so I ended up going and getting a toilet bowl cleaning bleach because it was a little bit stronger. And the applicator worked a little bit better for this writing that I wanted to do, which is
that writing is done with bleach.
Yeah, onto
wow, it's
the
so clear.
Yeah, that I'm not gonna lie, that toilet bowl bleach was pretty great because instead of becoming a liquid because it was more of a gel, it maintained its shape when it was put onto the denim. And it didn't spread out too much. So the writing is like part self-reflection, part like potential future inspired love letter. And then there are patches on there, which are jacquard woven patches, and all of the fringe was hand woven on a floor loom using different sort of materials, and they're all hand dyed as well.
My gosh, the work that went into this. Now, I'd love to have been a fly on the wall to watch how you put this together. So do you do this like maybe a quilter where you kind of lay it out and go, nope, 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 I got to put this down here and this goes over there? Or how did you put this together? And did you have to change it a bunch of times?
Yeah, that's honestly one of the fun parts about it is because not all of the jeans are attached by sewing. A lot of them are also attached by zippers, like those pink lines. You can see it in the detail that you've pulled in by the bottom section of the pink fringe.
Yeah.
There's a little pink line around one of those segments of jean. That is a zipper. So it can be unzipped and then re-zipped in a different area if you so chose, and depending on how you wanted it to look hanging up in a gallery space. So it's kind of modular and it's a little amorphous. It changes shape. I would say there were parts of it during making that it was very sort of like planned, very quilterly. Uh, but then I seam ripped it and started over.
Now, have you shown this at more than one gallery?
Yeah, it was shown during my thesis, and then it was also shown at an exhibition in Stark, Ohio. Other than that, I haven't actually shown it at another gallery space. One, because it's quite large. Some of the exhibitions that I end up finding and applying to have specific like size requirements.
How big is this?
In this iteration, it comes 42 inches off the floor coming toward you. That's 42 inches. It is 125 inches wide, and then it is also 130 inches tall.
Wow, that's big. And the reason why I was asking is I wondered, did you do it differently when you put it in the second gallery?
Yeah, on the second gallery, it was actually like if you take this orientation of it, uh instead of having it tall, it was long instead. So it was at that gallery space, it was I think maybe only 75 inches tall, but it was like 145 inches wide.
Then that you had patches there. I didn't realize you made the patches
Yeah.
on a TC2?
That was TC1.
TC1. So you can see these patches here. And the reason why I'm pointing that out is that then, sorry, Mandy, I know I'm driving you crazy. The next image is a patch. And it's the sandals again. So why, I got a couple questions about this one, but first of all, why a patch?
This is actually the first time that I used this image.
Oh, okay, okay.
So the idea actually originally started as a patch. So all of the patches on that piece are again making references either to those sort of like queer fashion symbols or like fishing symbols, or they were coming out characters. So like I don't know if anybody saw, but Cruella de Vil, Glenn
Yeah.
Close was on there. Velma from the live action Scooby-Doo is on there. And then a patch that we saw previously, the one that was a heart that had two figures in it, those were Sailor Moon characters. So those all kind of made little appearances.
Well, then my second question is why a patch?
I was thinking about sort of what goes on to jeans actually, because these patches were made for that big denim piece. Also just as a way to continue embellishing that surface. So that is how it all really started, was with these patches. Yeah.
Well, I never thought about making one on a loom. But that you could on those looms, you can kind of do anything. Well, then the other question is the case that it's in. And you can tell me, no, Kathy, you're completely off here. But is that part of the work, or is that just a really nice way to display the patch?
In this case, it was just a way to display the piece, because it was actually just the patch was accepted into an exhibition. And I was like, oh shoot, now I have to figure out how to display just a patch. So I got this wall-mounted display piece, and it's just 2 pieces of plexi that's kind of like clamping that patch in there.
Oh, okay. I didn't know, there could be some kind of a symbol emblem, or you just never know.
I'm working on a piece now where the display is a part of the piece, but it's not quite finished yet.
Well, I was reading about the many things that you've been involved with, and I saw that you've been asked to be a juror before. And I'm always curious, when an artist does a jury, does it change how you view your work in the world? Does it have any impact on you at all when you do jurying like that?
Yeah, it makes me realize like how hard jurying is, because there was a lot of work that was put forward, and suddenly you're just like, oh man, how do I pick? How do I say, this piece is good, but this piece is not quite chosen for the exhibition? And then also, like, one of the situations was I also then had to pick like juror awards, and that was an interesting new development as well. But as far as like, it made me wonder like how my work would appear uh within that sort of body of work as well. I wouldn't say that it like would influence how I made things or what I made things about.
What do you think you would have said to yourself as a juror?
Oh, like if I was the juror and also the juried. Uh, I went out of my way the couple of times that I was a juror to make sure that I wasn't like choosing predominantly one media. Like I did
Oh,
notice that there was frequently obvious like more 2D work than presented like 3D work. So I was always very conscious of not wanting to dominate or have one specific media dominate over everything else. I tried to always pick a pretty broad range of materials, processes, subject matters uh, that fell and reflected the theme of the exhibition really well.
well, I understand you're teaching at the University of Evansville. Talk some about, well, first of all, I'm curious, with your very varied background, you could teach 1,000 things. So what are you teaching at U of E? And talk some about what is that like to be teaching while you're trying to do your own work?
Oh, yeah. It was very different because before this, I also taught 2 to 8th grade.
Oh,
So it was a really big jump for me going from being a instructor of record at Kent State to teaching 2nd to 8th graders in Indianapolis. And I'm not gonna lie, when I was working 2 to 8, it was at times really hard for me to like end the day and come home, and I had no energy because especially the young ones, they have so much energy and they're so curious about everything that by the time I got home, I was just like, I just want to eat and then go to bed. Um, but moving back to teaching in higher ed, I am now, like last semester, I taught the Art History Survey 2 course, which was 13th to more contemporary practices. And then next semester, it's Survey 1, which is prehistoric to 13th century, and also teaching 19th century to 20th century as a topics course. it
Well, if you could
became a
teach
little,
anything you want, what would be ideal for you, whether it's art
oh,
history or studio or whatever?
I'm not gonna lie, studio courses. I want to go back to teaching studio courses. I miss that from Kent State, just because like getting to see people use tools for the first time, especially like when you get into heavier equipment, like when you get into the wood shop or when you teach somebody to weld for the first time. Uh that was always so much fun. I wouldn't mind teaching like a as a generalist studio. I not specifically as like just wood shop, metal shop, sculpture. Um, I also wouldn't mind doing foundations. I think foundations would be really fun.
Now, explain to people what that is, because if somebody hasn't taken fine art courses, they may not understand. Who's
Yeah,
listening?
so when somebody is saying that they're in like a foundations course, usually it's broken up into like foundations 2D and foundations 3D. And so that's really just going into the very basics where you're thinking about the elements of art and how to compose images, pieces of work. How are you it's that question of like, how are you using line? How are you using color? Where do you find texture? Uh, that's really in the 2D realm. In the 3D realm, you're kind of getting in a little bit into how do you construct something that is visually appealing and sound, and you're getting a little bit into how do you use some of these tools. So like bandsaw, sometimes table saw, drill press, things like that.
Would you want to teach fiber?
I would like to teach fiber. I feel like my like technical fibers skills were very like self-driven, self-taught compared to like jacquard weaving where I actually took a course. I took hours with two great weavers, and the first one is who taught me how to like dress a loom, and it was very much a here's how you dress a loom, okay, now weave. So it was kind of like she gave me samples and was like, okay, here you go.
Have fun.
Yeah, you got
Well,
this.
what's next for you?
Right now I have a digital weaving residency coming up in like 2 weeks at Praxis. So I get to
Oh,
go back to
lucky you.
Praxis.
Oh.
And then I also have a solo exhibition coming up at the Indianapolis Art Center, and that is a solo exhibition about those photo weavings. So that's all it's going to be. And I'm currently working on the largest one that I've done for that exhibition, and it's like 48 inches by 300 inches. And it's gonna be wrapped
Really?
around, yeah, it's gonna be wrapped around a aluminum frame and then suspended. So fingers crossed that it all works out.
Now, how long will that exhibit be open?
Um, I know that the opening is, I believe if I remember the email correctly, is the opening is August 22nd, and I'm pretty sure it goes until October.
Oh,
So
okay.
from July
Because I
to
know
October.
people would love to go see it. It'd be great to be able to go see it.
That would be awesome.
Well, let's answer some questions here. We've got some questions that we want to get to. Um, and you may have, this is from Christine Williamson, and you may have said this, and if you did, I apologize if not. The painted warp weaving, big day out, is that plain weave?
Yes,
Okay.
the
And
the
are there
painted
different
warp
colors
one.
in the weft? That's a good question, Christine.
Yeah, it's actually just one solid color weft, and it was a 22-2 wool that was this like peachy orange color. Originally, I was gonna go with a thicker uh wool, and it was like bright orange, but as I started weaving, it started overtaking the painted warp, so I pulled it all out and started again.
You are a hero. All of us have done that. None of us like it, but we had to do it. So good for you. Lisa Schweitzer asked, now that you're finished being a student and have moved on to being an instructor, where do you find people willing to give you constructive feedback? Or do you feel you don't need that much anymore?
Oh,
Good question,
I'm
Lisa.
not gonna lie, I will never not want to have critiques, mostly just because that's a really good way of like reframing how you're looking at your own work. And like continuing to sort of have that conversation about your work. I am still in a group with some of my grad cohort, and I bother them all the time about my work, and they like we talk back and forth about stuff. And then I'm also actually still in a group with undergrad, not cohort, but like fellow students from my undergrad, and
Oh,
we have
really?
those yeah.
Oh, that's
Uh,
wonderful.
I
Now, do
think
you do that through Zoom?
no, we have a Discord server where we talk, and we do sometimes have like
But it's
voice
online.
calls. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I do also talk to occasionally some of my fellow faculty member at the University of Evansville. Sometimes it's just in passing. It's a little hard to like um schedule because everybody's busy doing everything all the time.
Um, we have someone who asked, this is from Audra. She's from your tri-state area. She said, I'm so delighted with all the queer Evansville shout outs. I'm curious whether you've had any pushback at U of E or otherwise on the queer themes in your work. That's a good question.
Have not thus far. I was a part of one of their photo exhibitions. Um I believe that's actually still up. It could have come down at this point, but I believe they said that they were going to leave it up until July. And then there's actually an upcoming faculty exhibition
Ooh,
at the beginning of next semester. So I think maybe with that, there will actually be more context placed with the pieces. So we will see how the reception is when that happens.
love this next question. This is from Lisa also. Can you help out us old people and explain what you mean by digital weaving?
Yeah, digital weaving is using either the TC1 or the TC2 jacquard loom. So instead of treadling and slaying your heddles in a very specific way to get a pattern, you actually have to build a digital file on Photoshop. It has to be like a binary file that you can then submit or apply into a program that will tell the loom what warp threads need to be lifted at a specific shed. Which
Great explanation. Very simple. I even understand that. That's excellent. Lee, I think it's Donnelly. Lee, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, I apologize. She said, I'm curious about the flying shuttle loom. It looks like a Maycomber loom that's been modified with a flying shuttle. Is that true?
Yep, it was a Maycomber 16 shaft floor loom that had a fly shuttle attached to it.
Karen LeBlanc wants to know, I'd love to hear more about how you came up with concept for grant proposals. Oh my gosh, that could be a whole program in itself, couldn't it? And how
Yeah.
that translates into your exhibitions and your experience as a juror. Great question, Karen.
Oh, honestly, I feel like most of it actually came when I was applying for my own exhibitions. Not so much as like a let me reread that because I want to make sure I answer all the parts correctly. A lot of it was just when I was writing a proposal for an exhibition, this one specifically the one upcoming in Indy is titled Shared Tickets. I was just writing about what the work was, and then also adding in like how it was actually, like how it was made, what was the process, but mainly how, like what it meant, what it was. And then just kind of adding in somehow to be like, please let me show my work here. As far as the juror experiences, those weren't actually me reaching out. It was really great to one of them being an exhibition at USI. One of the faculty reached out to me because they knew that I was continuing with an MFA program and had graduated, and they were like, hey, this is a really great opportunity. We'd like to have an alum perspective on current student work. Will you juror this show for us in our new student gallery space? So I said yes. And then the second juror opportunity, they also reached out to me because of USI past faculty passing my name along, which thank you, USI art faculty, for keeping me in mind.
You're talking about how you have that support from your fellow students from school. Do you ever find that you found a guild that was supportive of you? I don't even know if there is a guild in Southern Indiana, but in other places where you've lived, were there guilds nearby that you could use as support, or did you find that that was helpful?
Yeah, I mean, I found a lot. I found guilds. I joined Facebook groups a lot. I there's actually, it's not, I wouldn't say it was a guild. I don't think they classify themselves that way, but there is also a weaving school. They teach classes, but that's in New Harmony, Indiana. So I've interacted with them a few times. A lot of it, especially in like the Facebook groups, the ones that aren't geared more towards like buying and selling equipment or like teaching you how to use equipment, um, they get very technical sometimes in some of the like conversations that they have about specific drafts that they're using, specific materials that they're deciding to make things with. And I find that that is usually like either very inspiring or you're learning something new in how you were considering drafting.
Well, somebody had commented in the chat, Audra Wolf, she also asked a question, that she's from Princeton, and she talked about that group in New Harmony, and that she was involved in that too. This is a good question. So as a fiber student, when you leave the university and you no longer have access to a TC2 or a big loom or a print machine or anything like that, how do, starting out artists find a place to get that kind of equipment? Now, you're going up to Praxis up in Cleveland, right? But what are some
Yes.
other ways that artists, can find a place to work?
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to be not shy. Oh, because there are some like either you might build a relationship with a university uh or a department head that they have access to those equipment, and I don't know, I'm not pinky promising, but you could potentially get connections to those materials, to those equipments through those relationships. A lot of it was also, I did a lot of like I would get an old loom, one that I could afford. I would fix it up, refurbish it, and then I would sell it for slightly more than what I purchased it for because it has been refurbished. It's been deeply cleaned, sanded, resealed, etc. And then building your way up to the equipment that you can find to be your forever loom. Like it's very different though for jacquard looms, because jacquard looms are quite pricey. They are a very pretty penny. Those would definitely take some grant writings to get one.
That's a good
But
idea there. I don't think people think about,
yeah,
trying to
like
find a
you can
grant.
find like individual artist grants. A lot of it is just finding those places that offer them. Um, yeah. And then also maybe if you do go to these guilds, or if you find a weaving school and you find somebody that is like semi-close to you, um, I've found that a lot of my weaving friends actually have more than one loom. So if you make friends, maybe they'll let you weave on their loom. Also, the Facebook marketplaces for fibers equipment, I feel like those are a great program uh, or like resource to find equipment there. Like I found a really good deal. That's where I got my loom, is a 10 shaft Maycomber, and it was a
Oh,
really good
sweet.
deal. So that's probably going to be my forever loom, because
Somebody wanted to know, how long does it take you to create one of your woven works, and how long do you think it'll take to do the 300 inches?
oh, I don't even, the 300-inch one, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of scares me. I'm on a bit of a time crunch because I got my dates mixed up and I thought my work drop off was later than it is.
Ooh.
But it all kind of depends on one, the size of the strips that I have cut them down to, and the complexity of the draft that I'm following. There's like twills, just like a classic twill is a really fast one because it also packs down really nicely. I don't have to worry about like having to get in there and like squeeze them together. So the twill ones go by really fast. Uh as I get into really complicated ones where I have to like look back and forth between the actual weaving and my iPad screen for to know what I'm actually doing, it gets a little longer. And then
Mhm.
surprisingly, actually, plain weaves take a little longer too, because I then have to like flip it over and squeeze all of the individual strips together and tape them down so they don't warp the piece.
We had somebody ask, what textiles artists inspire you?
Oh, there are so many. Um,
Just putting you on the spot here,
I know. Oh, I could give you a list. So, when I was in grad school, I made actually like an artist family tree, which I think is a really fun sort of activity to
Hmm.
do, just to like reflect on your work. And this might not be like reflecting in themes or processes. But these are artists that I am inspired by. So it's like Duho Suh is great. Gabriel Daw is also a really good one. Sheila Hicks. Um, of course, one of my mentors, John Paul Morabito. Oh, there are so many. And then
Well, good shout
like
outs.
yeah, different ones that I found also on social media. Like a lot of them have posted on Instagram.
Uh,
Of course, my
in
brain is
your
blanking
Oh,
on a
that's
really
you
big
come
one.
up with many. That's awesome. We appreciate it. I'll take you off the spot right now. So, in your bio, you talked about how your artwork is like a queer exploration and imagine history of me and myself. So,
Hmm.
it sounds like a mission statement in a way. What you want to do with your work. Are you finding that the that there are connections that you desire?
Yeah, that is definitely a very true statement. A lot of it was driven more or a lot by having discovered later in life, and coming out later in life as well. But I might also be reconsidering some of the wording on there. Like, I don't remember if the copy that I gave you talked about queer cartographies. That was really that process of like the remaking and taking it apart, remaking it, taking it apart. Now it's kind of shifted with this shift to the photo weavings and the things that I've been considering with them. It's almost shifted more toward like a reflection of the and kind of nostalgia for something that never actually even existed, because I'm thinking about like uh childhood, adolescence, teenagerhood, and kind of this imagined idea of if I had felt 100% safe in the area that I lived in, what that queer childhood would look like.
Mhm.
And also like what that sort of young queer romance would look like.
Mm. Oh, those are interesting topics. That's an interesting viewpoint. I hadn't thought about those. That's interesting. Well, I love it that you joined us today, and I'm so glad to have met you and find somebody from my neck of the woods. We got a couple people in chat are like, I'm from Southern Indiana. So thank you so much for being on here. I can't wait to see more of your work. I hope I get up to Indianapolis to see that. I want to see that piece, 300 inches. I want to see that.
Oh,
So I encourage everybody to go see Laicee Blackwell's website, laicieblackwell.com, and check out some more of her work. And now, are you going to post your exhibits there?
yes.
Okay. So there'll be information about our exhibits. And if you're in that area or going to be traveling up into Indianapolis, go check that out. I think it'll be an amazing exhibit. Thank you so much for being on here today. We really do appreciate it. We also want to thank our sponsor today, Lisa Schweitzer. Again, one of our Textiles and Tea Angels. Thank you so much for sponsoring this episode of Textiles and Tea. I hope you enjoyed it. I know you were watching and asking these wonderful questions, Lisa. I appreciate it. And if you're interested in being a sponsor of Textiles and Tea, or your guild, your business, a group of you want to sponsor someone, please do so. You can go to the website at weavespindye.org and you can select a date and just sign up. If you have any questions about it, contact the office and they will be more than happy to help you choose a date that you would like to sponsor. We've got Spinning and Weaving Week coming up, and you know what today is? Believe it or not, today registration open, and we've got people signing up like crazy. So lots of art sparks. I know some people said they've really missed them last year, so we're making up for the ones we have this year. They're amazing. Go check those out and sign up because they could fill up. Some of them will fill up. So go online to weavespindye.org and you can sign up for the registration. We've got at least 34 art sparks. We've got 5 studio tours. We've got thread talks. We've got vendors. And that'll be nice because in October, you'll get to see all the vendors and their new stuff. And that's when we're all getting ready to make those holiday gifts, right? Perfect timing. So check that out and sign up for Spinning and Weaving Week. We want to thank everyone who has supported HGA through donations or joining. You can do both online at weavespindye.org. But your donations help things like Textiles and Tea and Spinning and Weaving Week and all the programs that we offer. And they also allow us to offer new programs as we go on. So thank you for your donations. If you would like to join or donate, like I said, weavespindye.org. We would really appreciate you doing that. If you've missed any of the episodes, please join us and watch them again. You can watch them on Facebook. But there's been a change. Facebook has changed some of the rules, and now our Textiles and Tea are only on Facebook for 30 days. So if you're usually watching on Facebook and you want to go back and watch some of the older episodes, you may have to go to YouTube. And YouTube's easy. It's easy to do. And I encourage you to, if you want to do that, sign up for YouTube, because if you subscribe, you'll get a notice saying a new episode's been uploaded. So you still see them for 30 days, but you may have to go to YouTube for anything older than that. Next week, we have Bonnie Inouye. If you're not familiar with Bonnie, she is one of the grand dames of weaving. You will really enjoy her session. I'm excited to get to interview her. So I hope you'll have a wonderful week. Thank you for being here today, and happy tea.